because we need more people like us in this world to save this next generation of kids coming up.
Over the past year, unschooling TikTokers have been running absolutely wild on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've never heard the term unschooling, unschooling is basically an alternate version of homeschooling where children direct their own learning, and there are no set curriculums. And there's also emphasis on learning by experience, not just by learning by textbook. They do read books, but it's mostly experience. During the pandemic, schools were closed for over a year, and all classes were on Zoom, which basically meant everyone was homeschooled. After this, a lot of parents decided to keep their kids at home and not have them return to school once the pandemic ended and all public schools opened back up. This is one of the main reasons why unschooling and so many new public school alternatives are on the rise nowadays. A lot of moms are on TikTok and social media, so when alternative schooling content arises on these platforms, it immediately goes insanely viral, especially because parenting is such a touchy subject with different parents having so many different opinions on everything involved in raising kids, especially education. Now here's a basic rundown on unschooling from zenhabits.net. While school has classes with subjects, unschooling doesn't. While school has goals set by teachers and the school system, the unschooler/the child sets his or her own goals. While in school, knowledge is handed down from the teacher to the student. In unschooling, the student is empowered to learn for himself. While school has specific books or sets of learning materials, unschoolers can learn from anything. Books they find, things on the internet, siblings, or parents. The outdoors, museums, people working in interesting fields, anything. While school is structured, unschooling is like jazz. It's done on the fly, changing as the student changes. While students in school learn how to follow instructions, unschoolers learn to think for themselves and make their own decisions. While students in school are asked to learn at a pace arbitrarily set by administrators, unschoolers learn at their own pace. While in school, learning happens in the classroom at certain times. In unschooling, learning happens all the time, and there is no division between learning and life. In unschooling, life itself is learning. There is no doing school. You are learning all the time. Unschoolers learn like adults based on what interests them, figuring out how to learn it on their own, changing as they change, using whatever resources and learning materials they find, driven by curiosity and practical application rather than because someone says it's important. Yeah, I cannot. Now, if you know anything about child development and child psychology, children are not just mini adults that are just born just small adults. So wanting them to learn as adults right out the womb is just insanity to me. I'll get more into my personal opinions on unschooling, but to me, I just think that unschooling is forced onto children by adults that had an extremely bad experience with public school. And just by how they describe public school, they describe it as like military school, when that is not even how public school actually is. Like, if I remember me being in public school, it was not like I was in this military boot camp where the teachers were just like, learn this, learn. Like, that is not what public school is like. I just don't understand why they have such a hatred. Obviously, the public school system has like an insane amount of flaws, but I just don't like how they just villainize public school to like no end. The other thing is that if you don't like the public school you're in, you can literally change schools or go to private school or do homeschooling, which is not insanity. Homeschooling is way different than unschooling, which I'll get into. Another thing that unschoolers villainize is teachers, air quote, forcing subjects onto kids. But when I was a kid, I remember being in kindergarten, you would walk into school and you would be excited to know what the teacher was going to make you learn that day and not make you learn, like literally what the teacher had in mind. Like, the teacher would sing songs, make you draw. The main thing we did in kindergarten was just like play with Legos, play with blocks, sing songs. And then the high schoolers one time came in and like taught us Spanish. And then in second grade, we had like school plays, we had music class. Like, unschoolers just make it seem like public school is just like sitting at a desk and staring at a wall, when that is literally the opposite of public school. And then I just don't really understand it. And we'll get more into all that. But the number one thing that most people already know about unschooling, even if they don't really know that much about it, is that it has an insanely terrible reputation. And the number one reason why unschooling has so much online backlash around it is because of one TikToker named Kelsey Ray. And guys, please make sure to like the video and also comment road to 20K and subscribe to join our YouTube community. And thank you guys all so much for all your amazing support and really nice comments on all my recent videos. And here are some of you guys' amazing comments on the screen right now. And also, when you subscribe, you'll get a lot more videos like this one coming very soon. And now back to unschooling influencers. If you've never heard of Kelsey Ray, try not to get too angry or triggered, because at the end of the day, she's just gonna do what she thinks is best for her own kids. And everyone has the right to parent how they want to, but even though 99.9% of people will not agree, then you can't really force people to do what you want. So, and people like doxed her and everything, which is wrong. Like, you should never dox somebody just because you don't agree with unschooling. So keep that in mind. But she is absolutely off the walls on TikTok. But the number one takeaway for us about Kelsey is that if somebody is on their phone 24/7 and finds it physically impossible to put their phone down and get off TikTok, they should not become an unschooling teacher, a homeschooling teacher, or anything. And yes, I know that unschooling doesn't have teachers, but you know what I mean. Whether it's a public school teacher or a homeschooling teacher, if they're up in front of the class just scrolling on TikTok and fighting with internet trolls and not paying attention to the kids, they are failing the kids' educations and they should be fired. And if you're a mom of a baby or a toddler and are debating what type of schooling to put them in the future, please just don't be anything like Kelsey. Because just like educations and experiences of public school kids depends on the teachers that they have, the educations and experiences of homeschooled kids or unschooled kids depends on the parents that they have. So mainly try to be the best parent that you can be. And if you know that you're a calm and patient parent and you're academically inclined in math, English, science, history, geography, and every other subject, and you're a social butterfly, music lover, athletic, parent, and everything, yes, you can homeschool. But just know that you have to be every single thing that public school can offer in one person. And if you are this, because a lot of people that homeschool, you'd be surprised, they actually are this. They are like superhumans. Your kids will probably turn out great. But as long as when they get old enough to decide for themselves, you do give them the choice to go to public school if they want to. So don't just force them to do homeschool just because you want them to do it. But on the other hand, if you're an unhinged TikToker, MLM rep, glued to their phone, fighting with internet trolls, defending a scam business all day, and calling your kids annoying narcissists, and forcing your kids to stay at home with you so that you can prove something to TikTok and get likes and views and sell prove it ketones, please do not homeschool, unschool, or anything. And if you don't listen to my advice, your kids might actually file for emancipation as soon as they turn 16. The entire Kelsey Ray unschooling saga started around February 2024. On February 21st, 2024, Kelsey posted this next video making it very clear that she is an MLM rep. Just by scrolling on Kelsey's page for 0.2 seconds, I found out that she's part of the MLM Prove It, which is a ketone MLM. And this video proves it.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I used to dream of being a work from home mom, not a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to just stay home and only contribute my physical labor to the household. I wanted to actually make money for myself. And I wanted to make money because I've always loved getting my nails done, getting my hair done. Like if I want to go to Amazon and buy something, I want to go to Amazon and just buy it. I don't want to have to ask anybody for money. And then once I started actually working from my phone and making like a lot of fucking money, I started to realize like, could be so much greater than just being able to get my hair or my nails done. I'm making an impact to people's lives, and then I'm also able to create a future for my kids that I didn't get to have. We were broken poor. I would literally eat ramen. We would eat ramen all the time. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like I just remember my mom not having money, and we would always only ever go out to eat if it was a special occasion. And so when I tell you that I don't come from I want you to understand that, okay? I am a felon, a dropout. I don't have a lot of experience. When I started this, I didn't have any followers. I started from the bottom just as everyone does with 0 followers, 0 experience, but I put in the work to make it happen. I'm not talking about digital marketing, you guys. I'm talking about something so simple that a child could do it. Anybody could do this. All you have to do, what you're going to want to do, is drink exogenous ketones and tell people what they do for you. If you love them, if you don't like them, then you're not going to be able to be successful with this. But I am obsessed. They helped me lose 55 pounds in the first 4 months of drinking them. They helped me become a better mom because they elevate my mood. They curb my appetite because I have a serious appetite problem. And they've changed my life for the better. And so because I love them and I share that with other people, I actually get to make money from my phone. And then also I've created this community of like-minded moms on this platform and multiple other platforms that I get to help change their life by sharing my life experiences. I get to build a voice and a brand for myself, which is what I teach you to do. If you have not gotten in contact with me yet, drop the word call in the comments, because I'm going to open up a team training. So you get to get an inside scoop of what I train you on. Literally just be a fly on the wall. You don't have to unmute. You don't have to turn your camera on. I just want to give you access to my coaching, my team training. So drop the word call in the comments and let's go. It's time for a change. It is time to stop making excuses. You don't have to know what to do. I will teach you what to do.
So yeah, clearly all of the telltale signs of a recruitment video, because she leads in with one of the #1 dreams majority of moms have: staying at home with their kids and still making good money. Talking about having money to pay for all your bills and still be able to afford to get your nails done and your hair done without having to ask anyone else for the money. And she talks about how easy it is to make money from your phone, saying the vague phone business can help you make an amazing future for your kids, saying you need 0 followers and 0 experience, and saying you won't only help yourself, but you'll be helping millions of other struggling moms just like you. Now that all sounds great on paper, but that is 100% the opposite reality of being in an MLM. MLMs require you to be glued to your phone 24/7, more like 25/8 honestly. All MLMs are internet pyramid schemes that require you to make videos trying to convince people to join your pyramid scheme all day, every day. And you constantly have to DM people inviting them to join, and you have to borderline harass them all day long. And any free time you have after doing all this, which won't be a lot, you have to hop on multiple hour-long Zoom calls where your upline, aka the person who recruited you into the scam, yells and screams at you demanding answers on why you haven't made any sales that day and why they in turn have not made any commission off of you that day. And you're not helping any other struggling moms by making them join into your scam. You're just wasting their money and making them struggle even more after they buy your $300 startup pack to join your team. And when these moms buy these startup packs, people like Kelsey get commission. So she's not actually trying to help you. She's just trying to get your commission. And any moms that buy the $300 pack, they're not actually ever going to make that money back like people like Kelsey promise. They're just going to be out $300 forever. Yes, if you have like almost 1 million TikTok followers like Kelsey and you have such a chokehold on a bunch of moms on TikTok, yes, you probably will make the money back because you have, because you're bamboozling everybody and making it seem like you're just like this great leader, but it's just a crazy, she actually does have a lot of supporters. It's a crazy time over there. Again, clearly the daily routine of MLMers doesn't leave any room for being a full-time parent and or full-time home teacher to your kids in addition to being a parent. Guys, no matter how you feel about public school versus private school versus homeschool versus unschool, never join an MLM scam, please. I beg you. But yeah, this is why Kelsey probably loves the unschooling controversy, because it's making her an extreme amount of money. Her TikTok bio literally has a link to her MLM that says, "This link will change your life." And then it's just a link to the ketones. And the ketones are a bunch of nonsense, but this isn't a video about ketones. Whether or not Kelsey's unschooling content has ulterior motives, which it does, it's important to talk about her unschooling takes because it opens a lot of people's eyes to what can very, very easily go wrong with unschooling. And a lot of people say that Kelsey doesn't have the right version of unschooling, like she's not actually practicing true unschooling. But that does not really matter, because when millions of people see how she practices unschooling, it creates a new version of unschooling that they will practice. So it is the new version of unschooling. And Kelsey is 100% serious when sharing all of her thoughts on the school system. It's not like this is just like a satire account or a rage bait or anything like that. Some other huge red flags Kelsey displayed in her TikTok content before this whole unschooling controversy is that she openly and publicly talked about being extremely annoyed by her kids. She says that if she doesn't drink the MLM ketones in the morning, she would want to strangle them. And she says that she hates having their artwork all around the house and on the fridge. She also talks about her first grader being a narcissist, just like his father, who she's on no contact with.
I used to genuinely hate being around my kids. Some of you might actually remember this phase of my life where I bragged about being around my kids for 3 hours a day. As a stay-at-home mom of 2 kids, if I did not have these 2 things in my life every single day, I would not be able to parent these kids without. So I'm going to tell you 2 things, 2 staples that I have in my life that make or break me being a good parent to them. Number one, I wake up early. The second thing that I do is I drink ketones first thing in the morning. This helps me with energy all day long. I'm gonna say something that might make me sound like a bad mom. Does anybody else have a child with somebody that you're no longer with, like no contact with the child's sperm donor, and you just see tendencies in that child, like things that remind you of this person that you're no longer with, and the things that they're doing were reasons that you're not with that person anymore, and it like triggers you, like being with a narcissist, and then you kind of notice some tendencies in your child. Because this might make me sound like a really bad mom, but my child triggers me so much. I got to get in therapy immediately. Like, I know that I said I'm gonna try the EDMR therapy, because I gotta fix this up here before he gets older, because some things that he does genuinely triggers me. Does it make me a bad mom if I don't necessarily care to have my kids' artwork hanging all over my house? Like, I don't want your stick figure picture hanging on the fridge. Does that mean I don't love my kids? Like, I'm so fucking serious too. They don't even, like, I don't want a bunch of hand paintings or drawing hanging up all over the place. You can put it up in your room. I love it so much. I'll even put it on my desk right here beside me. But it's not going on the wall or the fridge. I don't even know if I'm gonna post this, because I know you're about to come for me.
If you're a mom, comment below, are you as taken aback as I am? Like, I think that like, saying that you don't want to see your kids' artwork is so, what is happening? And when you are an unschooler, the classroom is in your house. So obviously you're going to have the artwork. And also keep in mind that if you take on now being an unschool teacher, you have to do that on top of all the other mom duties that are in the day. If your significant other is like at work, for example, you have to clean, you have to cook, you have to do the laundry, you have to feed your kids, you have to hang out with your kids, and you have to do all the teaching. So what's going on here? Then on March 20th, 2024, Kelsey uploaded this next video.
What in the I just got a message from my son's teacher. He's in first grade. He's 7 years old. And I got a message from her stating that if he misses 10 consecutive days, then he will be automatically withdrawn from the school. I have never heard this in my life. Furthermore, there was a cop who had showed up to my bonus baby's grandparents' house because they missed school for like 3 or 4 days out of the week or whatever. We had just gotten over the flu, okay? So my family, we have 6 people. Eric is the only one who didn't get it. So we all had the flu. I'm not sending them to school when they have the flu. Duh. Do you want me to get other kids sick? I didn't think so. So we didn't send them to school, and they didn't go to school the flu lasts for a week. Okay, so my bonus babies went back to their moms, and I'm pretty sure went back to school. And then as soon as the flu ended in my 7-year-old, he immediately contracted pink eye. And then my toddler got it, so I already knew how highly contagious that it was. And so I messaged his teacher, and I was like, well, what do I need to do? Is there anything special I need to do? Because he had the flu, and now he has pink eye. I don't want to send him to school because, number one, he feels like, number one, his eye is crusty, dusty, closed. And so what do I need to do? She's like, just fill out the form on the website, whatever. I was like, okay, cool. And then she just randomly messages me that. So you're going to withdraw my kid if I don't have him there every single, like, I don't know, y'all can share, like, what's the logic behind that? Because I'm just not understanding it. But for me, I have such this deep rooted feeling of like how much the system wants to control our children. They act like they own our kids. And I don't know if you guys know this, but look into why the schooling system was ever even created in the first place. It was not to educate our children. It wasn't to teach them the life skills that they need, because we all know that you don't learn life skills in school. You learn how to sit down, pay attention, and do what you're told. And unfortunately, everybody that has kids in public school, they have to go to work, and they can't afford to put them in something that's like private school or something that's actually teaching them, their children, like proper life skills. So they have to rely on the public school system, and it's broken. So if you have any advice for me, I would love to homeschool him. I'm just a little worried that I might his academics, and I don't want to make him stupid. because I was homeschooled and I did not get the proper education that I needed. But I did learn a lot of life skills that taught me a lot, that have made me make a lot of money now in my life, which is great, right? But if you have any advice, please let me know. And then tell me in the comments, where do you guys live? And is this something that is normalized where you live with your kids? Does the schooling system also own your kids? Please help me make some sense of this situation. Furthermore, the reason that they ask for doctor's notes, and the only reason that doctor's notes excuse the absence, is because they don't believe you when you say that your kid is sick. Why the f do I want to keep my kid home? Like, no, thank you. I would love for him to be gone at school for a couple hours, give me a break. But, like, he is sick, and it's not my problem if you don't believe that. Why the f do I need a doctor's note for you to believe that my kid is homesick?
Now here's the thing. It's extremely common knowledge that if you don't call the school and let them know that your child is sick every single day they are sick, and have a doctor's note to prove that all these days were valid sick days, the school will become extremely concerned for the child's safety and well-being and will send somebody to your house. That is just how it works in the United States. I don't know what to tell you, but everybody, if you remember staying home from school when like they used to have the landline phones, the landline would be like, Felicia was not in school today. Please contact us immediately. Like every single day, whether you called ahead or not, it would still send you that message. Like everybody knows that you can't just make your children disappear for months on end and not expect the school to ask where they are. Whether everybody likes it or not, it's just law that education is 100% mandatory in the United States. So whether you're attending public school or legitimate homeschool, you have to be receiving an education, or by law, you will be found to be truant. And if you are a mom of 2 kids and one of them is already in 1st grade and you don't know what truancy is, that is not good at all. You could get you and your kids in trouble with the law very easily if you don't know what is going on with that. Parents should know all this way before their kids even get to kindergarten age, and it should not be surprising because this all isn't just a thing with school. This is also a thing with pediatricians. If a pediatrician is seeing your toddler or baby, and then all of a sudden you just ghost them, the doctor's office will come after you and harass you. Like, they're just gonna assume that, okay, all of a sudden you don't care about your child's health, so what's going on here? With doctors and schools, it's not some crazy conspiracy theory or them trying to control you and your kids. It's literally them trying to make sure that your kids are still alive. If a kindergartner or baby just goes MIA, they're not asking you where they are to attack you. They literally just want to make sure that the kid is alive. And not all laws are some crazy corrupt thing. Like, for example, you can't just go on the wrong side of the highway and drive 90 miles an hour and justify yourself. And also, just because pediatricians or teachers ask where your kids are doesn't mean that they're taking over your responsibilities as a parent or trying to be the parents of the kids. As a parent, you take care of your kids, love them, guide them, help them, keep them healthy and alive, and everything else. And I'm pretty sure that you would die for them. I hope you would. But that doesn't change the fact that you have to make sure that you and your kids are following basic laws. Just like you as an adult cannot rob a bank just because you feel like it, children can't refuse education just because they feel like it, because that is just how life is. And it's not some crazy conspiracy theory, because if it was, then homeschooling would be illegal. Like, the law allows you to even do unschooling. The fact that unschooling is legal should tell you that it's not some crazy suppressing your parenting autonomy thing. But a lot of people think that unschooling should be illegal, so let me know in the comments what you think about that. And now let's move on to Kelsey's next unschooling video, which she posted March 29th, 2024.
Do y'all remember the video that I made about my 1st grader being threatened to being expelled if he missed too many days? Like, the school system, you can only miss so many days, and then they like call DSS on you or something. It's crazy. So through this experience, and also since I've had him in school, I've had a very weird, icky like my intuition, my motherly instincts are screaming at me that the schooling system is not for my kids. Okay, so like I've not wanted to put him in there, but let's just face it, it's a free babysitter, and you know, we got to do, we're trying to create a financial stable life for these kids because we didn't have that. But anyways, so I have decided, I'm pretty sure I've made the final decision that I'm going to be doing unschooling. Now, a lot of people have a lot of to say about this, right? There is public school, there's online public school, there's homeschool, and then there's unschool. It's kind of hard to say. So public school, you go into a brick and mortar building, right? Online public school, you have to still show up to school or show up to these classes, but it's online. And then homeschool is you're still using the schooling curriculum to teach your child, and you still have to turn in paperwork to the government, and you still have to have, you have to check some boxes. You still have to check boxes, which is what I don't want to do. I don't want to check boxes about my life and my child for the government. Why are we so in this mindset that we have to do this? You know what I mean? Like, the government won't let me. So anyways, unschooling is where, and I'm still learning, I'm still researching, but it's basically where you don't have to check a box. You teach your kid what you want them to learn, and a lot of the times you leave it up to them of what they want to learn. And there is studies that show kids who do unschooling and even homeschooling are actually faster learners, and I want to say smarter than public school kids. I'm pretty sure there's studies out there, okay? Now, this is not me talking about anybody's decisions, okay? But I'm pretty much to that point of I've decided when he's done with this schooling year, I'm going to be doing unschooling. We're going to be doing like gardening and baking, cooking and cleaning and life skills, and I'm going to teach him about taxes. I'm going to teach him about money. Like, I'm not raising a child that's dependent on the government. I refuse. My life has been hard. I don't really, I mean, what? I'm 30 now. So if I live until I'm like 80, hopefully maybe 100, I don't know. But the point to this is I want my kids to live a good life, and I want to create a legacy for the rest of my downline of my family. And so, it's going to be a really good experience. And I hope that you guys are following along, because I'm going to show y'all everything. So let me know, what are your thoughts, opinions, or advice when it comes to unschooling?
This video clearly displays another extremely common theme with parents who are so passionate about hating on school. And that theme is me. For example, they're like, public school never sat right with me from the start. I don't like how the teachers keep calling me. I don't like how they email me. But what about the kids? Kelsey also says that unschooling doesn't require her to check a box, which is just not true. No matter what type of alternate school you do that is not public school, you still will have to prove to the government that you're not making your kids truant or neglecting them. Kelsey also says that with unschooling, you teach your kids what you want them to learn. And that is actually the complete opposite of unschooling. I don't even like unschooling, but still, unschooling is the kid learning what the kid wants to learn. Also, Kelsey says she's pretty sure that there's studies that say unschooled kids are smarter than public school kids, which is 100% false. Obviously, the word smart can have different meanings, but if you're just talking about academically, then unschooled kids are across the board behind academically. Of course, there can be outliers. There could be like genius unschooled kids, but from everything I've seen, it is kids saying that being unschooled was the worst thing of their life. They are now almost 40 years old and they are still behind academically, and they cannot adapt to society at all because of being behind in literacy and mathematics. And the only people that would be spreading these studies, even though there really aren't those studies, would be unschooling parents. They probably are trying to be like, look, unschooling kids are smarter. But in reality, there is very little formal research about unschooling. There's just a bunch of philosophical books about it and parent forum articles about it. Also, a lot of people don't like how Kelsey says that part of her unschooling is her kids doing chores. And also, did you guys notice how she called her kids her downline? So basically, she wants her kids to unschool to set them up for being in her MLM. Also, Kelsey is clearly benefiting from unschooling because when she documents the process on TikTok, she's getting tons of views and money. But as a parent, you always need to do what's best for your kids, not what is best for you. Like, you know how they say that before becoming a mom, you live for yourself? Like, your mentality is just making sure that you are alive and well. But when you become a mom, it shifts to making sure that your child is alive and well. If you struggle with that shift, I don't think you should unschool. If your child is having such a miserable time in school and you notice that and they have tried to be in public school and it just cannot work for them, but taking them out wouldn't be enabling them or making them quit when the going gets tough or anything like that. Like, if you know deep down that it's just the right thing to do, then yes, homeschool them. I would never advise unschooling, but just go to homeschooling. But make sure that it's not because you hate the teacher, you hate the principal, you hate the school. And make sure that it's not just because because you're enabling them. Like, if something is happening in school that makes your child not want to go to school anymore, you are responsible for teaching them life skills and ways to actually improve the situation. And you could literally make them transfer schools if it's actually an extreme situation. You could literally take them into a different school. And also, because you were a kid before, then all the things that you learned as a kid, then you should go into parenting wanting to teach them how to not have those same bad experiences that you had. Another huge problem that a lot of people have with unschooling, and that unschoolers hate when people have this problem, is that why do you need to have your kids be unschooled to spend quality time with them, to teach them gardening, baking, money math, and everything else, and how to do taxes? As a parent, it is your basic job to teach them these things. And you can teach them outside of school. And then I hate how everybody's like, oh yeah, they're in school for 8 hours a day. They're in school for 8 hours a day. What about all the other hours a day? I know that obviously sleeping takes up part of the 24 hours, but if you pick them up from school and you just don't speak to them for the rest of the day, that is your problem. There is plenty of time to teach them everything you want to teach them. And what about the weekends? What about everything like that? And again, if you don't want them to go to public school, or if they don't want to go to public school, what about homeschooling, where you still learn how to read and do math and do everything? Like, why unschool? But instead of everyone sitting around on TikTok complaining about school curriculums, how about getting off of TikTok and teaching the kids what the schools aren't teaching them? So if school doesn't teach your kids how to do taxes, why are you on TikTok for hours and hours yelling about, oh, school should teach taxes? Teach the kids. Teach the kids how to do taxes. All that time you just spent on TikTok, you could have just spent that time in the garden with them, at the library with them. Kids nowadays barely read. We need kids to be reading. Like, all across TikTok, teachers are saying that their Gen Alpha students cannot read. And those are public school kids that cannot read. They have literally no literacy. And then the whole thing with sight words versus phonics. If your kids are only learning sight words in school, you can teach kids to read from like 2, and some kids even earlier. So instead of jumping on TikTok and complaining about why are public schools teaching sight words, just teach your kids phonics at home. And then when they enter kindergarten, they'll already have 3 years of knowing phonics. At a point, you can't just blame everything on the education system when you literally have the mouth to teach your kids something. Yes, I am against sight words in schools, but Rome was not built in a day. So like, it's gonna take a while for the education system to change. And yes, I agree with unschoolers that like a lot of things you learn in school is just like random information, but it's not really about the random information. Like, for example, if your teacher tells you, okay, today we're learning about this time period in history, get your book and learn about it. When you're an adult, your boss will tell you, okay, today we are doing this work, have it on my desk at the end of the day to get your money. Like, you have to do things that your boss is telling you. Even me, having YouTube now as a job, you still have to follow the YouTube terms of service. You can't just go on YouTube and do whatever you want and expect to get AdSense money. You have to follow YouTube's rules. And even Kelsey in an MLM, she still has to follow the rules of an MLM. Like, nothing in life, you're not going to be 100%, oh yeah, I'm just like, I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to answer to anything. Like, that's why I said the example of you can't go the wrong side of the highway and just go 90 miles an hour and then just expect to have no consequences. Entitlement is a huge problem right now with everybody. Like, entitlement is going crazy right now. But why would you want your kids are probably already going to be entitled just because everything in life is just so automated nowadays. When I was a kid, we would have to go to the library, use the Dewey Decimal System to find a book on something to do a report. We felt guilty for using SparkNotes and Quizlet. Now they can literally just have AI write their whole paper. There's such little emphasis on academics that why would you want to put even less emphasis? Another huge thing about public school curriculums is that it is valid that a lot of the historical information is kind of crazy. Like, for example, when they teach you that Rosa Parks was just like an old lady who randomly sat on a bus one day. But at home, if you're actually paying attention to what your kids are learning, you can see, oh, they learned about Rosa Parks today. You could ask them what they learned about her, and you can tell them who she really was. And if they're struggling with any subject in school instead of blaming the teacher on their teaching skills. You can help them. You can help them with their homework, not do their homework for them, but actually teach them after school and spend that quality time with them in their education. For example, all those math tricks, like with the 9 times table. I don't think I ever learned in class the 9 times table trick. So say you have 9 times 8. So 9 times 8 equals 72 because you subtract 1 from 8 to get 7. And then whatever you have to add to 7 to get to 9 is the second digit of the answer. So that works for every single 9 times table. Like 9 times 6 equals 54 because 6 minus 1 equals 5 and 5 plus 4 equals 9. But I promise you, I did not learn that in school. I don't know if I just noticed that myself. I'm pretty sure I just noticed that. Any of those little tricks, you can just at any moment just tell your kids these little hacks, these little tricks at home. And then obviously not every teacher or adult authority figure can be trusted, but that is also your job to teach your kids safety, to teach your kids how to drop kick somebody if anybody crosses them, to be there for your kids, to make sure that you are showing up at the school if anything happens. Be a Karen if you want to be a Karen at the school. Don't just let the teachers just do anything that they want, but it's all nuance. It's all a balance. This next video is pretty disturbing. So Kelsey says that she doesn't care if unschooling will mean her son can never go to college or transition into society, which is crazy because she says that she basically wants him to be an MLM rep just like her.
The number one question that I get asked about when it comes to unschooling or homeschooling, or that I've seen in my comments about it, and I'm not an expert, we haven't started doing it just yet, but I want to share my thoughts on this side of things. And people are saying, well, how is he going to get a diploma? How is he going to go to college? How is he going to get a good paying job with, can you get a diploma from doing homeschooling or unschooling? Number one, the answer is yes. You can graduate from unschooling and homeschooling. You can get a diploma, you can get a normal job. But here's my take on this. I don't want my kid to get a normal job. I don't want my kid being a part of the system in any way. I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself, and I've been working for myself for the past 5 years. I actually want to say 8 years, pretty much my entire life. I've had little odd in hustle and jobs. But overall, I've known for a very long time that I am an entrepreneur, and I like working for myself, and I like creating my own income and creating my own future. That's what I want for my kids. I want my kids to think outside of the box. I don't want them to be part of the norm. I don't want them to be normal, what the normal is in our society. I want them to be successful based on who they are as a person, not because of what they learn in a textbook. I want them to be happy doing what they love, because then when you are doing what you love, you work 10 times harder than the person who's doing what they hate. And so even if they couldn't get a diploma, we've been brainwashed and conditioned to believe that you have to go to school for 12 years. Then you have to go to college to get a good job so that you can get paid well. But most of those people, guess what? They're in debt from student loans. Did you know that? Most of you probably watching this have student loans and you're in debt. And that's just what America has turned into. That's just what society has made us believe is okay. It's normal. That's the path that you got to take. No, I want my kid to learn like real life skills. I want them to learn how money works, how investments work. I want them to learn how saving money works. I want them to learn how to set boundaries. I want them to learn how to do things with their hands and use their brain and be creative. And then I want them to go take the skills that they learn and make money from it, because you can make money doing anything. Do I believe that he needs to learn basic fundamentals to like live a good life and not have to struggle? Yes. Math and reading and writing, those are things that we can practice at home and he can learn without a school. Because we need more people like us in this world to save this next generation of kids coming up.
The irony here is that pyramid schemes like the one she's in are huge parts of modern society. And she's just a pawn in a big corporate greed scam. But not being sheltered would make you aware of things like pyramid schemes. And if you are homeschooled and are homeschooled by a street smart parent, then you would still learn by your homeschooling parent to not fall into these scams and financial ruin. Another thing that makes no sense about this take from Kelsey is that yes, you get in debt from college, but K-12 public schools do not leave your kids in student loan debt. They are 100% free. And no, just because they're free doesn't mean that all they are just free babysitters. There are a lot of bad teachers out there, Miss Trunchbowls from Matilda, but good teachers like Janine from Abbott Elementary, for example, genuinely want your kids to be set up for success in life. There will always be bad teachers that you'll have to look out for, and you have to be there to protect your children. But from my personal experience, for every bad teacher who genuinely sometimes is out to get you, there are 10 great teachers who want to see nothing but your success. I don't think that teachers are inherently evil like Kelsey thinks, but I have had my fair share with insane teacher experiences. Also, another thing with Kelsey is that just because you are an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you have to force your kids to be entrepreneurs. And I'm not gonna force my kids to have YouTube channels just because I have one. And for a million reasons, I don't even want them to even go on social media, which is why I do not show my son on social media. But the thing is that you should give your kids every resource that they need to succeed in any area of life. So as adults, if they want to be on social media and they are completely old enough, adults and everything, then yes, you could give them your knowledge on social media. But why not also make sure that they can read and write? So that if they want to be doctors or anything else, they can have options and they can do what they want to do. And in one of Kelsey's videos, she gets mad when people say that you don't own your kids. But if you are that triggered by the phrase you don't own your children, that is a problem because children are not possessions. They are humans. And if you treat your child like a possession, they are just going to run far, far, far away from you. And whatever happened to if you love something, set it free. You can't just give birth to a baby and then keep them in the house forever. Like, I understand that a lot of moms, they don't want to miss out on their child's life, so they want to not have them in school for 8 hours a day, and they want to just see them for those 8 hours. But if you allow your kids to be kids and do what they want to do in life. If they want to go to school and hang out with their friends and be in the school play and the school talent show and go to the prom and everything, after they graduate from high school, they will love you for doing the if you love something, set it free and valuing them as humans, not as possessions. And then you will have the whole rest of your life to spend with them because they will not go no contact with you when they're adults. Again, this is not talking about homeschooling. I don't have anything against homeschooling. Homeschooling can be done for the right reasons. I'm not talking about all homeschoolers. I'm talking about narcissistic mothers who cage their kids and do not want them to have any outside experiences. So if you shelter your kids so much so that it's destroying their lives, they will either never be able to go into society and they will never leave your house. Like they'll be like 35 years old living in your basement, or they will be able to succeed in life, but they will never talk to you ever again. Yes, you can spend those 8 hours a day with them now, but they probably will never see you again as adults. But again, if you are not a narcissist and you are a great academically inclined person who knows about child development and everything, and you give your kids options and they genuinely like homeschooling, yes, they will turn out great and they will not cut you off. If you're watching this and you homeschool your kids and you're a great parent, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you. Don't get triggered in the comments. So now let's go on to Kelsey's April 9th, 2024 video, where she laid out everything that she's gonna do to teach her son once she starts unschooling.
We have 52 days until I pull my child out of public school and start unschooling him. He will be in 2nd grade. But I want to share some things with you guys that I'm going to be doing to make sure that I don't his education or his future. Some of you guys in my comments, not all of you, most people in my comments actually are homeschooling or unschooling, and I love that. We built this community of people, this community of like women that really just think the same, and I love that. Like, that's been my goal this entire time with this platform, is can we create a community of people that all think the same? And we've done that. So tell me in the comments, if you homeschool or unschool, what are your best practices, your best tips, okay? So a couple of things that I'm going to be doing are prioritizing to make sure that I don't his education and he learns the skills he needs to be a successful adult, is lots of time outside. This is going to allow his creativity to flow, letting children be children and not setting them in front of a desk or a piece of paper or a book for 8 hours a day is the best way to get their creativity flowing. And that matters in life, especially when you're trying to do something that you love. I'm going to take him grocery shopping. We're going to start a garden, doing lots of gardening, lots of hands-on stuff to teach him these things, not just reading out of a book, which is what's wrong with public school. So I'm going to also teach him about money. That goes into grocery shopping, okay? I'm going to teach him how to be frugal, teach him how to shop for the things that he needs, not always what he wants. I'm going to teach him how to set boundaries with people. I'm going to teach him how to create friendships and connections with people. I'm going to teach him how to bake and cook. Do you know how many adults there are right now that 30, 40 years old don't know how to cook, which is crazy to me, okay? After a certain point, you can't blame your parents for that no more. You can learn, all right? We're also going to be doing lots of sports. So he'll be in any sport, every sport that we can possibly think of, because we will now have time to do so. I'll be taking them to the aquarium and zoos and learning through life experiences. And that is what unschooling is. Now, a lot of people think that unschooling, and people will say, unschooling is giving your child autonomy over what they want to learn. And yes, that is true. But if you sit there and say, what do you want to learn today? And your kid goes, I don't really want to learn today. It's not your job to say, okay, that's fine. No, we're learning something today, but what do you want to learn first? Okay, that's how I'm approaching it. I'm not going to give my child full autonomy over dictating his entire education or his entire little baby life, because if he chose, he would choose to do nothing. Okay. But I will have lots of stuff planned out for us to do physically, hands-on stuff. And I believe this is going to be the best thing I've probably ever done for my kids. And I'm really excited. I'm going to record everything. So if you're not following me, you definitely should be, because I am documenting the out of this experience, because I have been feeling in my heart for a very long time that public school is just not, it's just not it. It's just not. And I think that a lot of you watching this, you probably feel the same way. So I'll take the lead. I'll do this. I will lead you on this. Even though I don't know what the I'm doing, I know that I'm gonna figure it out. And I trust my instincts and what I feel is best for my child over anything else that the government or society has to say about it. So make sure you tap that follow button and follow me if you relate to this.
Again, these are all things that I hope that all parents teach their kids on a daily or weekly basis, no matter what type of school they're in. I hope you are teaching your kids how to cook. I hope you take them to the aquarium. And I hope you speak to them. And again, why be against learning through reading when most kids today barely even read as it is? Like, we need books and we need people to read. It just can't be all scrolling on TikTok. School is probably the only place that kids read nowadays, unless they're encouraged to read at home. After this, Kelsey got doxxed, which I am 100% completely against. And I think that's really weird behavior of the people on TikTok to dox her. That is absolutely crazy. And people called CPS on her for unschooling because she had no GED or high school diploma. And no matter what somebody is doing on the internet, you should never dox them or call CPS on them. Well, obviously there are certain cases where that would be warranted, but in this case, just unschooling doesn't warrant it. And just because you don't like someone else's parenting style, at the end of the day, they have free will to do whatever they want with their kids. So just make sure that you are not doing that to your kids, basically. And also, it's kind of like when you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. So if you make an entire platform off of making people think that you're a neglectful mother and then this happens, I don't know really what to say, because like you can't really be shocked if something like this happens.
Apparently my address has been leaked and people are threatening to call CPS on me for doing unschooling with my children and not having a GED or a high school diploma. So here's my thoughts on this process. If you spent the time that you're spending on me and you took it and you spent it on your own life, put the energy, effort into your own life, I can promise you would probably find happiness, because you seem very resourceful. Whoever these people are that are digging for my address, posting it on the internet, and then taking time out of their day to call CPS on me for something as simple as choosing to school my child in the way that I want to school them. I'm not going to stop talking about it on social media. I know it might piss you off if you're a teacher or if you're a principal or if you are somebody who makes money based on my child coming to public school, or I don't even know. What's the motive here? Why on earth is somebody going to search for my address, post it on social media, and then call CPS on me for something as simple as me wanting and speaking out on unschooling my child? Do I really trigger you that bad? Do I make you that mad? Or like I said, is there a different agenda? So Anyways, it's just crazy to me that people are out here doing shit like that, and I'm not gonna stop talking about it. So if you're wanting me to like take my videos down or to stop talking about it or sharing it, I'm not going to.
And now this next video by Kelsey about her take on socialization is pretty crazy, so don't get too triggered, but she is just so twisted and turned in all the wrong directions with this take. You cannot become socially well-rounded by only socializing with your parents for 18 years. That is just crazy. Like, yes, it is extremely important to have a good relationship with your parents, but I'm not saying anything about that. I'm saying, how are you going to be socially well-rounded if you only socialize with your parents?
Also, I wanted to homeschool, unschool, but I'm afraid my kids being antisocial because we don't get out of the house often. The biggest lie that we've ever been told in our lives is the fact that we need to go to a school where there's 30 other kids in our classroom so we can socialize with these kids that we have no idea who they are. We need to build these socialization skills through going away from our parents for 8 hours a day. It is the biggest lie in the history of life, okay? We don't actually need socialization skills. We need to know how to communicate, which you can do with your parents. We need to know how to connect, which you can do with your parents. And those are skills that you take for the rest of your life to make friendships, to go out and be able to get a good job if you want to go out and be on social media if you want to make friends, whatever. But those are the skills that you need that you can learn inside of your home. Because what happens when you send your kid to a classroom for 8 hours a day with 15, 20, 30, however many kids, all day, every single day? Guess what that does? That is outside influences impacting your child. And realistically, you're not raising your child alone. You're raising your child with the schooling system. Because what they're going to learn isn't just coming from you. The beliefs that they're going to have aren't just coming from you. You're raising your child with everyone else. That is why I'm choosing to unschool. And as far as being antisocial or having social anxiety, I'm going to tell you, you know what gave me social anxiety? Going to public school and being bullied when I was in 6th and 7th grade. That gave me social anxiety. That made me antisocial because I didn't want to deal with people who were being mean to me. I didn't learn the skill sets I needed to early on. My point is you don't need to worry about what society says is going to happen to your kid if they're not in school, okay?
In another video, Kelsey wrote on the screen, "If the worst thing that happens to my kids from unschooling is not knowing how to socialize, I think they'll be fine. I never leave my house, and I don't like people either, but I'm still happy and successful." And again, that is diabolical because kids are not out of the womb just mini adults. Just because you don't like people and you don't like socializing doesn't mean that they don't like people and they don't like socializing. Kelsey's most famous unschooling video by far is this next video where she complains about having to sign a piece of paper for her son so that he can get a prize at school, which is a fuzzy. Either Kelsey or TikTok themselves removed the original video, but a lot of people stitched it, so parts of it are still up. And the main thing to take away from this is not really how long it takes to sign the paper. Yes, that is a huge thing, but if your kid is telling you, "Hey mom, this is really important to me, I really want this prize," don't immediately shut them down, stomp on all their dreams, and say, "You think that fuzzies are so important and so valuable? Well, they're not important or valuable to me. Therefore, they have no value or importance at all in life." Signing a piece of paper every night is not some crazy conspiracy theory. It's just the teacher trying to teach to their first graders how to be prepared for second grade, so that when they enter second grade, they already know how to take responsibility for their own education. And getting a document signed by your parents encourages you as a kid to communicate with your parents about what is going on in school. Because a lot of times parents are like, "How's school?" And the kids are like, "Good." And they don't really say anything. And all they say is good. But this creates a conversation at home about what is going on, and then it opens that line of communication. And again, just sign the paper. It's not that hard.
Piece of paper that had a signature side and a date side, and she told him, didn't say nothing to me, told him to tell me I needed to take his homework out of his folder every single night, sign and date this piece of paper, and send it back to her every single day. Now listen, I took that piece of paper out and I said, "I'm not doing that, baby. That has no benefit to you at all. I have 4 kids, and I run a massive business through social media. I don't have time." Literally, I put it on the counter and have it signed it.
Fuzzies that he has the ability to earn, those are important to him. He verbalized that earning that fuzzy is important to him. and you told him, I don't have time for the things that are important to you. I'll take the paper out, I'll look at it, I'll tell you how I'm not going to sign it, I'll tell you how it's not important to me, I'll leave it on the counter. That teacher that you're so angry, she's preparing these babies for second grade. She's preparing them to say, hey, we have to take more responsibility. See this piece of paper? I'm going to put this in your guys' folder, and what I need you guys to do, go home and let your parents know they need to sign it. That is a step in teaching children to take responsibility for their own education. An education that you have told your son, I have no time for this. It's not as important as what I do. What's important to you doesn't really matter. I don't care if it's education, it doesn't matter. I run a business. It's sad because I know that kid wants his fuzzies, and I know that teacher wants to give that kid his fuzzies. I hope your unschooling works. I really do. I really, really do, because we have a child that's going to enter into society underneath only the things you care about. I hope you've got some priorities in there.
Also, if you hate public school so much because you think that they're stealing your kids away from you and hiding what is going on in those 8 hours, why would you be mad that they want you to know what's going on and want you to have a document about what is going on? Also, people who post detrimental content on the internet love to use the phrase, if you don't like my content, just scroll. But that's exactly Kelsey's response to all this backlash. Obviously, no one should call CPS on Kelsey or be that invested in her life and try to control what she does. But when people see you creating a national movement that can easily slip into child neglect, no one is going to like it. Now let's get into more about actual unschooling, because moms that are nothing like Kelsey actually try to do it for completely different reasons. Unschooling is an educational philosophy based on children's innate curiosity and desire to learn. The main difference between homeschool and unschool is that students don't follow set curriculums like lesson plans, worksheets, and homework. It's basically learning by experience, not textbooks and worksheets. And there's also no online courses involved. The modern American unschooling movement began around the same time as homeschooling in the 1970s. Former elementary school teacher and homeschooling advocate John Holt coined the term unschooling to describe the process of kids learning naturally from the world around them. Unschooling appealed to parents who felt traditional schools were overly restrictive and felt that they emphasized conformity over personal growth. Unschooling parents are not really teachers or instructors, they're more like partners. So if a child asks for help with a subject, the parent will provide the help or direct them to websites like Khan Academy. But because of this, unschooling may not ever lead to children reaching the same academic milestones as kids in other schools. For example, Peter Gray, an unschooling advocate, says that while public schools begin teaching reading in kindergarten, unschoolers allow children to decide for themselves when they're interested in reading and don't push reading, which is crazy. And then I saw this video on TikTok that said that unschoolers encouraged her to not feel bad if her kids could not read by second grade, but then now her kids are not unschooled anymore and they're extremely behind. And I have no idea why, as a parent, you would want to enter a type of education knowing that there's like a 90% possibility that your kids will never learn how to do adequate math or reading at the pace of other kids, so they are literally going to be behind in life. Like, why would you want your kids to be behind everybody else? Like, even the unschooling advocates are saying that they're really likely to be behind in reading and math, which is really important in life. So why would you want them to be behind? And in unschooling, when kids learn math, they tend to learn the kinds of everyday math used by adults and not higher level concepts like algebra. But the problem with this is that algebra is tested on college entrance exams. So a lot of unschoolers love to say that, oh yeah, I did unschooling, but then my kids still went to college. But usually they are very limited to the colleges that they can pick from because they can't pass college entrance exams. So they can go to community colleges, but if anything is on the entrance exams that they never learned in unschooling, they cannot get in. The main problem overall with unschooling is leaving kids without adequate levels of literacy and numeracy. And this is admitted by unschooling advocates. And when it's time for these kids to enter the world, they enter it behind everyone else. And the debate of the state of society is completely for another day. But if you know that society is the way it is, and you have to do these things to be in society. Why would you set your kids up to be recluses? Like, I feel like the only way that unschooling works is if you already know that your kids are like Nepo babies or they're going to be rich for the rest of their lives, like trust fund kids. Like, if they genuinely don't need to go into society when they turn 18 and they just live, like, I saw one girl have a good experience with unschooling, but she looked like she just like surfed all day and then she's just like happy with unschooling. But for majority of people, it's just going to send you to the unemployment line. And unschoolers think that public school is too rigid when life is rigid, which is, we can debate another day if life should not be rigid. But it is rigid. So a lot of people don't even decide to have kids because they don't want their kids to go through what they go through with life being so rigid. But if you have kids and you bring them into a rigid world, set them up for happiness in the rigid world, not to be behind in the rigid world. And again, public school is not some crazy rigid thing. And if it is, then move schools. All public school really does is just set you up for the basic rules and principles of life. And I don't think it's good to teach kids that they are in control of every single thing in their lives because, yes, like, again, I already said don't control your kids, but they still have to listen to your authority as a parent. And that's going to be a slippery slope because if you tell them, okay, for 8 hours a day, I cannot tell you what to do, but once unschooling ends, now you have to listen to me, I don't think they're going to go for that. After the 8 hours ends, they're going to be like, nope, I'm unschooling right now. I'm not listening to you. Now let's read some experiences from people who were either badly homeschooled or unschooled. And these comments were left under Kiki Chanel's video about Kelsey Ray. I wasn't even unschooled. I was homeschooled. And I only have an 8th grade education. I'm 36. I was distraught when I went to college and immediately drowned. I needed so many remedial years of school to catch up to college freshman level that I developed an autoimmune disease from the stress of trying my hardest to do so. My hair was falling out in chunks and I became depressed. After 2 years of struggling in 3 different colleges, I dropped out of school in shame and self-hatred. It was only a few years ago I realized it wasn't my fault that I was so undereducated and that I can do something about it. I'm now 4 years no contact with my mother. She deprived me of my childhood and important milestones that I'll forever be unable to relate to others about. No kid needs to be around their mommy 24/7. I was so codependent with my mom that it felt like a betrayal to have my own opinions. She told me I must be a stay-at-home mom just like her, or I would have no value as a person. She discouraged and criticized every other potential future career I took an interest in. Now I'm teaching myself math using YouTube and Google because I decided I want to try college again. I'm a 36-year-old teaching myself math that 15-year-olds are doing. I've been working minimum wage jobs my whole life, not by choice. I worked a respectable office job as a CSR once, but I let myself get bullied out of it because I had poor boundaries, no resilience, and was a fawning people pleaser. I had zero self-esteem. Educational neglect is I don't think I could say that word, and it can affect your whole life. That is extremely sad. And again, not everybody that is homeschooled has this experience, but as parents, you have to have self-awareness. And if you know that you are on your phone all day, you have a short temper, you're a narcissist, you should recognize that you are not the best person to be homeschooling. If you aren't anything like that, then yes, you can homeschool and won't traumatize your kids. And if you let them decide to go to public school, but reading this paragraph, you should not want to do something that could even remotely have the possibility of having your child writing this paragraph one day. And another person wrote, as someone who was a part of this stupid unschooling as a kid, way before it was even a thing, I can tell you that it damages the child in so many ways. I was only pulled out for 3 years, but it took me so many years after I was put back in the system to catch up with everyone else. I was behind socially, mentally, and educational wise. Not to mention the feeling that your stupid follows you around because everyone else is so far ahead of you. Kids need structure. They need guidance. A parent cannot do everything, and neither can a teacher. The school system may have some major issues, but doing this is not helping. And that's another thing I don't like about unschoolers is that they make learning and teaching like bad words, which there is nothing wrong with instructing, teaching, and learning. Like, what are we doing here? There's also a lot of people on TikTok who have come out about their bad unschooling experiences. And it's so messed up because a lot of unschooling moms attack these people who are formerly unschooled. And it's like, a lot of unschooling moms went to public school and they weren't unschooled themselves. How are you going to go to public school and then make your kids unschool at toddler age and then see adults or teenagers on TikTok saying that it's a terrible idea and then attack them for it?
The whole interview was about, like, you know, the dangers of unschooling, and the person.
So I usually don't respond to things, but I'm getting more bold about stating my opinion and sharing my story. And as someone that was homeschooled, borderline unschooled, I cannot tell you how difficult life was to adjust to once I did join society. My parents definitely thought they were doing the right thing, but they left my sister and I a lot to our own devices when it came to school. After about 4th grade for me on, and when I finally decided I wanted to go to college, I had to get a GED, which at the time automatically disqualified me for a lot of scholarships because I didn't have a high school diploma. I had a GED. And then on top of that, socially, it was rough. It was really rough. I had a really hard time with the general education classes and had to get tutors for almost every single class except for reading and comprehension, thank God. That's the only thing I managed to excel at. And it was probably just because I spent so much time on my own reading as a kid. But it was horrible. It was awful. It was so traumatic as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old going to college thinking, oh, I'm going to be okay, and absolutely just realizing I knew nothing and I was going to flunk out of college. And I had to work really, really hard to get back into a moderate level of really easy general ed classes.
So I was unschooled. I don't support unschooling, and I've gotten hate from parents who unschool their kids for not supporting it. Here's the thing though, I was unschooled, and you probably weren't. So here's why I don't support it. As a kid, I spent my childhood learning to play chess, circuit boards, knit, fun stuff like that. But I didn't want to learn to read, and I didn't want to learn to do math because that was boring. So in the rules of the philosophy, my mom didn't make me. So by the time I hit middle school, all the other kids were making fun of me for not knowing how to read. My mom signed me up for a junior high literature class in my homeschool group, and I didn't know how to do anything. To prepare for the class, I had to teach myself how to read because my mom wouldn't. I did this by watching YouTube videos and figuring out that they were saying the name of the video in the video and then figuring out what the words were. For high school, I decided to go to public school because I was not getting the education I deserved. And guess what? I immediately started failing. I didn't have the years of prior education building me up to prepare me for the level of work I had. I was kicked out before I got to graduate.
But as you guys can probably tell, I feel that unschooling is 100% a backwards philosophy. Let's just take public school out of this equation for a second. With homeschooling, children still learn accountability. They learn how to follow direction from their parents and adults and teachers. In a lot of homeschools, they have a bunch of different teachers on Zoom teaching the kids. So it's not just like the same teacher or the parent. And kids learn how to stay on top of academic milestones because also a lot of unschooling, they don't even grade the kids on anything or have tests or anything. And with homeschooling, they learn how to do really good reading, writing, mathematics, and everything because they're following a concrete path of learning that sets them up for success and keeps them on track with public school. And even a lot of the times makes them more advanced than public school kids. Because if you're homeschooled and then your mom wants to teach you algebra, and if you thrive in a homeschooling environment, you could learn the algebra extremely quickly. So then now you're not just going to sit there for the next couple months until summertime. You're going to move on to the next thing. So homeschool kids, they could actually be advanced. And homeschooling is valuable, but I don't know if you guys agree with unschooling. I'll try to be open-minded, okay? I'm never gonna unschool. I'm never gonna sit there and be like, I want my child to have no curriculum. Unschooling makes no sense. Unschooling is chaos. Legitimately chaos. I can't do this. Now, don't get triggered, but this is my 100% genuine opinion on unschooling. Unschooling teaches kids to never respect adult authority, to only value their own opinions. It teaches them to be entitled and to think that they are the smartest, wisest people ever. Because if you tell a kid, learning depends on you, they are going to think that nobody has anything to teach them. You're telling them that even you, who gave birth to them, doesn't even have the right to teach them anything, because that means you're forcing something onto them. Like, kids don't just jump out the gate knowing what everything in life is. So maybe if you're talking to a 5-year-old, they only know a limited amount of subjects to choose from. Like, your child is not just gonna inherently know every single subject that there is to learn. They're not gonna be like, oh yeah, I want to learn trigonometry and organic chemistry and physics. Like, they don't even know what that is. So to think that they're gonna be ahead in life because they have the opportunity to learn everything is just ridiculous, because a lot of people in high school don't even know what that stuff is until the teacher's like, okay, we're learning physics today. Whoa, what happened to math, art, science, and history? What's physics? Like, a 4-year-old is not just gonna be like, I want to learn P equals MV today, mom. Unschooling, this is my opinion. Unschooling relies on the idea that children have inherent wisdom, which is extremely ironic. You're saying that kids learn by experiences as they go along, but experiences are what give you wisdom, because knowledge is just knowing facts, but wisdom is knowing by experience. And by definition, wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. So you're not just going to jump out the womb being wise, but in order to take control of your own education and know what you want to learn every day and become the smartest person in the world out of choosing every day what you want to learn, you would have to already have wisdom. If you're unschooled and you want to become a doctor, you would have to be like, okay, today I want to learn the anatomy of the human body. When children don't even know what anatomy is. So they're obviously not going to ever reach academic success because they don't even have a general knowledge of all academics that could be. Unschooling requires the parents to not force their agenda onto their kids. So if you are even giving your kids anatomy books, physics books, chemistry books, that is not unschooling, because you're forcing them to learn something. You're not even supposed to force them to do anything. That would be homeschooling. And you know that saying, you are your kid's parent, not their friend? That is there for a reason. And if you teach your kids that adults are just their friends, when they get to college, they're gonna quickly be shocked that professors are not their friends. When they go to work, their bosses are not their friends. Their professors are not gonna ask them what they want to learn today. Their bosses are not gonna ask them what work they want to do today. When you get pulled over by the police are not gonna ask you what laws you want to follow today. It is just a recipe for absolute disaster. Why are we attacking education for children to lead education? Why can't we have them have an education and then separately ask them what they want to do for fun? Like, why are we roping it all together? Ask your child what museum they want to go to. Ask your child what park they want to go to. What do they want to go to the beach? Do they want to go to the park? Do they want to go to this? Like, you don't have to ask them what they want to learn. You can make them have their own decisions in millions of different areas of life that are not education. And that will not teach them to be entitled or not follow the laws. That will just teach them to have fun in life. Please, please just do homeschool if you don't want to do public school or private school or anything else. And please just don't scar your kids for life. And don't do something with your kids that will end up with them hating you resenting you and never speaking to you ever again because of you forcing your opinions onto them. And remember that you could literally have had a terrible time in school, and your kids might not share those experiences at all. A lot of people hate public school because they're focusing on the negative. So if they have a memory of being picked last for the team or something, then they're like, oh, I'm never gonna put my kid in school because I'm never gonna let them get picked last for the team. But your kid could be way more athletically inclined than you, and they could be getting picked first for the team every single time. But if you never even allow them to get into that situation, then they will never know for themselves. And if they are picked last for the team, you can learn from your bad experiences and help them if they want to be good at sports and they're not, and it's hurting their lives. You can help them at home, like become good at sports and teach them how to play the sport that they want to be good at. And then they can go to school and stunt on everybody and become the star of the team. And everybody would be like, oh my goodness, they improved so much. Like,
These are 4 reasons why some kids, in my opinion, should not be homeschooled. Side note, these are also some reasons why some people should not be entrepreneurs, so I'm sticking with that same types of education versus types of employment theme. Spoiler alert, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. Number 1, homeschooling can be a lot of work. I'm talking researching resources and curriculum, planning lessons, teaching lessons, planning activities, record keeping, like all of this takes time. And with public school or traditional education system or just like traditional employment, that's all kind of set up and established for you. These things are, they don't really require much parental input, and this may or may not be the best thing for the child depending on your opinion, but that's another video for another day. But that's just one of the reasons why it may not be for you. Number 2, parents have to be willing to educate themselves about the laws and opportunities that are available for homeschoolers. Just like tax laws and opportunities are different for entrepreneurs than for traditional employees, homeschooling families have different rules to follow than public school families. So if you're not willing to learn and follow the rules for your state, you shouldn't be homeschooling, period. Number 3, freedom, especially when it comes to the schedule, can feel like chaos to some people. Some people really thrive on having a set routine, like an employee working 9 to 5 with weekends off and holidays off. That is the best fit for them, and that's what works for them. When it just like being an entrepreneur, the routine with homeschoolers can change, and it can change often, and that may not be the best fit for every child. Number 4, the child may not want to be homeschooled. In my opinion, once a child reaches a certain age, like 8, 9, or 10, the decision to homeschool should be their choice. No one, in my opinion, should be forced to operate in a system that they don't want to be in or that they're finding it difficult to succeed in. The same is true for adults who are not enjoying one type of employment are free to pursue another. So before anyone comes for me in the comments, please remember.
This is my beef with unschooling, because there are people who would rather slam a door shut, padlock it before their child's even tall enough to reach the doorknob, than give their child actual tools and choices for the rest of their lives. Your child is not a project. Your child is a whole person. You are raising a person who will be an adult way longer than they will ever be a child. And of course, the child doesn't want to do the real learning. The real learning is hard. If you have a motivated child, that's wonderful, but plenty of children are not. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. They're children. It is perfectly reasonable for a forming brain to be like, I would like to do the easy, fun thing and not the hard thing. Because they cannot see into the future and see how all of these hard things that they are doing now are going to impact them later in life if they do not learn them. But adults do. And when they choose to ignore that reality, or worse, knowingly limit their children, because that's really what they're doing. Life is long. It's like sending your child on an 80-year-long trek in flip-flops.
We've been unschooling for 6 years. Recently, my son has come to me and said he'd like to start actually learning. He would technically be a high school sophomore. He isn't ready for that level yet on most subjects. He is, however, an incredible artist. What would everyone recommend for a program to get him started on learning subjects that won't make him feel like he's way behind? I'd say his math skills are that of a 6th, 7th grader. Reading comprehension is fine. When did learning become a bad word? Maybe I'm slow, but I'm seeing a whole group of women, Facebook makes me laugh so hard, that are like, I know how to read, write, and do math. I'm knowingly going to tell my child they don't need to know how to do any of that. There was a woman who said her child does not know how to write, but it's fine because she's a good keyboardist and she can type on a phone. Closing the book on homeschooling because you bitches are weird.
And Kelsey Ray is doing exactly what I said she would do. She's decided to co-opt unschooling in order to make content and profit on TikTok. Now, several weeks ago when Kelsey made her first video around unschooling, I made a few replies. I was pretty new on TikTok, but I've been unschooling for 15 years. My kids are ages 13 up to 21, and my 3 eldest kids are now full-time college students. And I had some concerns about the way she was presenting unschooling to the world, and the way that she had described her involvement with her children and her parenting in the past, and the way that that didn't seem to fit with the philosophy of unschooling. So I made a video directly to Kelsey, encouraging her to connect with experienced unschoolers and adult children who were unschooled. But I was also concerned that she was never interested in understanding what unschooling is in the first place, much less implementing it with her kids. Really what she was doing was wanting to co-opt it in order to use it for content on her platform. And lo and behold, now I get it, influencers want to influence, but for me this is really concerning because somebody who decides on a whim to unschool because she's got beef with her kid's classroom teacher because she can't bother to find the time to sign her kid's homework folder, that kind of person should not be platforming themselves as an expert on unschooling. And I've seen her make a number of videos confidently proclaiming what unschooling is and trying to teach her massive audience about it. And as someone who has practiced this educational philosophy for a decade and a half, I've been pretty concerned about the way that she's misrepresenting what unschooling is. It gives unschooling a bad name to her massive audience and to all of her critics. Yes, unschooling is child-centered learning. It is not curriculum-focused learning. She got that right. But unschooling is not making your kids go vacuum out the car. It's not taking your kids to the grocery store and calling it good. Yes, domestic skills and domestic obligations are part of unschooling. Yes, everyday activities like going to the grocery store and the library and interacting with other people out in the community are opportunities for learning. But that's not all that unschooling is. And what I've seen of Kelsey Ray is that she's much more interested in running her, as she calls it, massive social media empire, and has very little interest and focus for her kids, unless she's using them for content. And she's misleading her audience about the commitment and connection that is required for unschooling kids. Unschooling is not less work than other kinds of homeschooling. Unschooling is not less work than being the involved parent of a public education kid. So if she didn't have time to sign her kids' homework, I don't know how she has time to unschool. Disinterested in her kids' education before now, I sincerely hope that she has done a 180 and wants to invest in her children, but I don't see that's what she's representing. You have to have a strong connection between parent and child in order to unschool, because the parent has to facilitate education through the child's interests. Unschooling takes more time, more connection, more involvement from the parent than other methods of home educating. Unschooling not only requires a time commitment and a strong relationship between parent and child, it requires that the parent prioritize the kids' interests. And I've seen Kelsey telling her kids what they're going to be doing. She said she makes them do things. Unschooling goes hand in hand with non-authoritarian parenting, in letting children's interests lead the educational journey. My job as an unschooling parent is to help my kids chase their interests all the way down the rabbit hole. It's not for me to tell them what their interests are. It's not for me to buy a curriculum and plunk it in front of them. It's not for me to have them do menial chores around the house and call it good. If you are interested in unschooling, or if you are a hardcore skeptic of unschooling because of what you've seen of Kelsey Ray's content, I really encourage you to watch some of the experienced unschoolers on this app who've been doing it for a long time, and also look to some of the adult kids who were unschooled and now are out in the workplace or in graduate school who share their experiences. I get that a controversial creator with a large platform is currently talking about this issue because it's convenient for her to monetize it. Yep, she's successfully content/rage farming off of unschooling right now. If you're skeptical and critical of unschooling because of what you've seen from Kelsey Ray, please know that she does not represent this community. And she's actively misrepresenting what unschooling is. And if you're interested in unschooling because of what you've seen from Kelsey Ray, please know that it is not the quick, easy, less work solution for moms. It's a commitment that centers our kids' educational journey on them, on their interests. It's not parent-centered. And if you think that unschooling is what you see from Kelsey Ray and what she is telling you it is, that you're setting your kid and yourself up for a lot of frustration and failure. Please go read up on unschooling philosophy. Please go connect with folks who've been doing this for a long time. Please don't think that the way that unschooling is being portrayed in those videos is what unschooling actually is.
With homeschooling, to avoid becoming a neglectful parent, I think that if you're going to homeschool, you have to be in a situation that you are 100% a stay-at-home mom, not a work-from-home mom who is glued to a business all day. 100% a stay-at-home mom. And that is kind of rare nowadays because of everybody needing a dual income in order to survive. Also, a parent on Reddit wrote, "Child-led education takes a broad knowledge base and an understanding of developmental psychology." So in my opinion, if you don't understand child development or anything, please do not unschool. But I want to know what you guys think about this entire unschooling trend. So let me know down below in the comment section. And remember that don't get too triggered by this because we can't control what other people do on the internet. But I want to make this video because we can control what we do with our own children in our own lives. And that's why I want to show you guys the terrible experiences of people who were actually unschooled, because I don't want a bunch of people to see something on TikTok that seems good on paper and then they don't see the negative side of it and then they do it to their kids and then now it's 18 years later and then they can't take it back and they regret unschooling. But yeah. But thank you guys all so much for watching, and please leave a like on the video and subscribe to help us reach 20,000 subscribers. And thank you guys all so much for liking and commenting and subscribing recently on my channel. And I'll see you guys all in my next video. Bye guys.